Good afternoon. Today we will present the work Respondent's housing condition as a factor influencing the probability of contact with the respondent in a face-to-face interview on the example of ESS Paradata analysis. Predicting the success of contact with the respondent is currently one of the key tasks of empirical sociology. The ability to use a correct prediction allows researchers to avoid or reduce the impact of system errors and improve the quality of the study itself. One way to improve the response rate is to use Paradata. Paradata is the data about the process of collecting information received during the survey. This includes the respondents' behavior, characteristics of their housing condition, reaction to questions, time of answer, and more. They are used to correct response rate and the data collection process itself. The role of letters with Paradata are filled in by interviewers is significant. Researchers collect the information of the all typical units, including refusals, for each of the attempts to contact the respondent. This makes it possible to describe potential participants who refuse to take part in the research and those who are willing to pass it. To assess the likelihood of participation for each category of respondents, the result of the ESS study tell about the importance of assessing the household condition of the respondent. European social survey interviewers use an adaptive method of engagement, which means that the more information they have about the respondent before the first contact is made, the greater the likelihood of the respondent's commitment and even how sincerely the respondent will answer. Another issue is the problem of distinguishing the influence of different reasons for refusal to participate in the research, but the question of connection between refusal for various reasons, which other factors, remains open. The problem of research is the low level of analysis of the impact of the characteristics of the respondent's household and place of residence on the level of non-response. The aim of the article is to study the influence of the characteristics of the respondent's household and place of residence of the response rate in the ESS study. The task is determining the influence of the respondent household condition on the probability of their participation in the research. The study of the Paradata is presented in the works of Beulens, Van der Plas, Loosevelt, Gross, Shin, Durant, Smith, Kreuzer, Kansas-Carrera, Dmitriev, Tarasenko, Ustinov. Beulens, Van der Plas, and Loosevelt pointed out in their work the importance of taking into account the interviewer's influence on the response rate in the result of the ESS study. In the ESS study, interviewers are sent to respondent depending on the area of residence to reduce travel costs. This factor and other characteristics of the interviewer, such as experience, personality traits, extraversion, has a decisive influence on the content of the respondent. The result of research conducted by Gross showed that in addition to the characteristics of the interviewer, the probability of agreement increases with increasing experience of the interviewer. Such factors as a region of residence of the respondent, population density, social-economic situation, ethnic group, religion, and characteristics of housing have a significant influence. Optimization of the process of recruiting respondent is especially relevant in the context of the study of weighting the opinion of respondent in accordance with their professional status, educational experience. Shin concludes that the characteristic of the area, number of apartment and population density are also predictors of lack of response. Smith, Durant with colleagues, and Kreuzer with Kansas-Carrera provided information on the effectiveness of using Paradata to predict and correct non-response. Shevchenko and colleagues talk about the peculiarities and concluding personal interviews. The study was conducted based on the analysis of 5th and 9th wave of ESS study datasets in Germany. The methodological documents presented on the ESS website were also taken in the analysis. Logistic regression was used to build a model for assessing the respondents' participation in the research based on the characteristics of their households. For analysis was used the SPSS statistic program. For consideration of internal and external processes in ESS research, the methodological documents which are in 3 assess in the ESS site were collected and processed. The paradata in the contact letters contained information about the conditions in which the respondent lives, whether the area is safe, the type of accommodation, and if the respondent refused to participate in the research, the reason for refusal. In order to analyze the relationship between the respondent's housing condition and consent to participate in the survey, we analyze the main block question present in each wave and the alternating question for different waves and countries, different for most participating countries. We analyze paradata and instruction for the interviewers for ESS 2010, it's a fifth wave of ESS, and 2018. Its 9th wave of ESS study in Germany. Several methodological documents noted the problem of non-response of respondents living in certain types of household, but as a fact of the existence of this problem was described in several sentences, it can be concluded that it is not given much attention to this problem. Earlier, we considered the difference between the methodological aspects of the research in 2010 and 2018 and analyzed changes in the organization of housing condition of respondents. In particular, the typology of the respondents' apartment appears, the list of possible variants of the interview results changes, additional alternatives appear, which reduces the risk of the interviewer misunderstanding the further way to continue the interaction with the respondent. In 3 waves, 6th, 7th, and 8th, the researcher methodology changed. The interviewer needs to describe the respondent's attitude to the survey, the characteristic of their homes and living condition. We analyzed 9th wave, where these changes are most noticeable, to see if there is a relationship between the level of refusal, non-response, and housing condition of the respondent. Characteristics of the house they be surveyed take place, employment of the respondent, level of education, income level of the household, personal income, and objective social status of the respondent. In order to determine the influence of the respondent living condition on the probability on their participation in the survey, we analyze the objective and subjective reasons for refusing the interview. In the 9th wave of ESS study, there are 26 options for refusal and 1 option for consent to an interview. Amongst the refusals are conscious categorical refusal due to unwillingness to participate in the study, refusals due to other circumstances with the possibility for further cooperation, options for not concluding an interview due to the relocation of the respondent or respondent illness or death. Existing reasons for refusal can be divided into objective, which combine reasons independent of the respondent's opinion, and subjective, which reflects the motivation of refusing to participate in the research. In the vast majority of studies that do not use paradata, all refusals are considered as one result, failure to interview the respondent. However, it should be noted that different reasons for refusal may be related to different characteristics of the respondent, and combining all options for refusal may primitivize and distort for the results. Therefore, for the analysis, we identified a subjective refusal due to reluctance, interrupted interviews due to the fault of the respondent, refusal of the household, and refusal for objective, other reason. The respondent fell ill, moved, unable to answer for various reasons. Invalid interviews due to the interviewer's fault were also deleted. Based on these characteristics, 2 binary variables, consent and conscious refusal, and consent and refusal for other reasons were created. In order to explore the influence of the respondent's household characteristics on the response rate, we constructed binary logistic regression for the dichotomous variable. Was the interview attempt successful? For 2 newly created variables based on ESS 9th wave data. In the first case, to determine the impact of household characteristic. The independent variables were type of house, access to it, whether in intercom or other means to communicate with the respondent, the presence of garbage nearby, vandalism, and physical condition of the house, its walls, roof. Binary logistic regression for the dependent variable agreement and subjective refusal with independent variables, physical condition of the house, type of household, access to the house, presence of garbage near the apartment, presence of vandalism near the apartment. In this model, the influence of the variables access to the house and presence of garbage and presence of vandalism turn out to be insignificant variables. They improve the model by less than 0.1%, so were excluded from further analysis of the model. The quality of the first model for the variables consent and subjective refusal is low. Namely, the subjective refusals of the respondent cannot be explained by household characteristics. However, the quality of the model for the variables consent and objective rejection is higher compared to the first, but also not sufficient. Thus, the living condition of the respondent can to some extent be used to predict the success of the content, but do not have a strong impact. This is in line with previous studies, which indicate a link between the type of home and the likelihood of participating in the survey. In particular, less cooperation of respondent living in the apartment building may indicate the effect of social status as a latent variable. In addition, a low quality of the model can be explained by the nonlinearity of communication. Respondents with low and high social status are less likely to cooperate. In order to predict the success of the contact by the condition and type of housing for different reasons of refuse, we analyze the conjugation tables. Based on the analysis of the distribution, it can be concluded that the worse the condition of the house, the lower the chance of agreement for the interview from respondent. We can see such result for both subjective and objective refusals to conduct interviews. Regarding the significance of the type of house, the result of the analysis show that for a subjective reason for failure, this variable does not have a strong impact, but for objective condition, there is a connection with the type of house. In general, this indicates the influence of the condition and type of residence of the respondent on the probability of successful contact with the researcher. Taking into account the results of recent ESS research and analyzing existing data from contact form about the respondents' life circumstances, researchers have the opportunity to develop approaches to engage group of respondents based on their characteristics, thus increasing the success of interviews, including respondents with different types of housing, for which could be made a larger margin in quantity to reduce weight in further analysis. From the results of analysis, it can be concluded that the living condition of the respondent do not explain the level of non-responses, the dynamics of dependence on the type of house and its physical condition remains the same. Respondents living in apartment and dormitories are more likely to refuse interviews than respondents living in private homes. In addition to the factor of the type of housing where the potential respondent lives, which has the greatest impact, the factor of the physical condition of the apartment should also be taken into account, because the analysis revealed that the worse the condition of the apartment, the more likely the respondent would refuse to interview. Putting this question on consideration for ESS member countries, which have problems involving respondents in the survey, it is possible to improve the work of interviewers and reduce the level of non-response. Thank you.